Great to have you with us. In our first story, the Ghana Education Service says it will begin serving nearly 800,000 JHS and SHS students one hot meal starting on a Monday. President Akufo-Addo directed the service to begin the program following the suspension of food vending at the various schools to minimize the risk of COVID-19 spread. Each student and their teachers will be given an egg each as part of a menu made from local foods. Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwa, has been speaking to head of Joy News' health desk, Fred Smith, on the sidelines of a brainstorming session in the Eastern region.
It's a success.
Yes, we will be going out there to monitor officially. The media, I believe, may also want to go out there to see whether it is working. Now, the key thing, for example, the egg that we've spoken about, we want to ensure that everybody has an egg. So if, for example, there's no egg, we don't expect that we just go out and say we went here and there's no egg. We may want to find out the reasons from the vendor and issues like that, you know, so that when we do a story, it will be a balanced story for this reason, or maybe, I didn't hear that we should add egg. So now that the information has just come to me, maybe my next meal will include it, or, I mean, there may be a genuine reason, you know, but we don't want it to seem as though the whole thing is not working. As I'm saying, we are feeding about 800 plus students and staff.
Sorry, how many students?
I don't have the specific numbers, but I know that the total number that was announced, I think, was 800 and something. When you put the staff and the students together, you get about 800 and something, you know. Overall, the children who are writing the exams, if you put the two of them together, they go beyond almost 600,000. They go beyond almost 600,000. And if you bring their teachers together, you know, JHS, there are about a minimum of about 7 teachers, 8 teachers teaching in a JHS. So when you put all of them together, and it is both private and then public, you put all of them together, you get something in the realm of 800,000. You know, there will definitely be 1 or 2 spots where you have a challenge, you know. So we have indicated that by 11 o'clock, because they'll be going home at around 1 o'clock, we've indicated that by 11 o'clock, those meals should be ready. We don't expect that 11 on the dot, everybody, you know, so if you get there and it is maybe 10:30 and the person is serving, fair enough. If you get there and it's 11:30 or it's around 12 and the person is serving, fair enough. But the key thing is that they should have the one hot meal. They should have the one hot meal, you know. So that is it. We want to, we as part of the monitoring, when we go into the schools, we will find out first from the students whether they actually had the meal, what kind of meal they had, do you have your egg, and things like that. If there are issues that they raise, we also then will raise them with the vendors, you know. If there are issues that relate to the heads, we also raise them with the heads, you know. Then if we need to alert the districts to also do something, then we'll also do that. Any support that we need to give to them, we will do, you know. If there is a need for the district to even support them with transporting the food to 1 or 2 schools or things like that, our district offices are ready to do that.
We're going to consume, at least for these students, 800,000 eggs in a day. That's huge, especially for the poultry industry. Do they have the capacity? Have you engaged them to know that they have the capacity to produce this on a sustainable level?
I want to believe that they do. Because the good thing about this is that it is not going to be a centralized thing, so that, for example, you say, oh, you are buying everything from Accra, so one company is buying and you don't have the capacity and all that. You know, this one, the small poultries will get the opportunity to have that. And as I indicated, even though you're looking at it as 800,000 as a group, but in some communities when you go, it is just about 20 peoples a day, you know. So if you buy a crate or you buy 2 crates, it will take you about 3 days, you know, and things like that. So we believe that they have, and I think it's also a good opportunity to boost the industry, you know, over a period of about a month or so that they will be doing that. And we want to encourage them to be able to supply for us. Yeah.
Sorry, the advice to the poultry industry is for them to be alert about this.
Yes, so they should be alert that this is what is coming. And we also, I want the vendors to take this part of it very seriously. You know, you may have situations where some vendors may want to substitute the egg a day with something else, but we want them as much as possible to be able to provide that egg. And if they have a genuine reason, if there is a need for us to support them to get eggs from somewhere outside of their area, we are ready to do that to ensure that this thing works very well.
Finally, do we know the menu?
The menu, what we've done is that we have asked that the menu should be local menu, the contomeres and the rice and the yams and the red rice and the beans and things like that, as local as possible. Usually what they do is that depending on where you are, you try to get the very local foods that the children already eat in their homes. You know, we don't want to have anything like maybe sausage, etc. No, the local foods should be the ones that they should consume. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, Professor Pokwa Mankwa has also been speaking about the plan to reopen schools following months of closure forced by the outbreak of COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Prof, for speaking to us. It's been some months since we shut our schools because of the pandemic we've all come through. What has been the plan to reopen our schools, because parents are very eager to see this happen?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think recently when the president spoke, and that was his 15th address, I believe, he charged the Ministry of Education and then the Ghana Education Service to work together to come up with some plan for school reopening. Subsequently, the minister also inaugurated a committee to look at school reopening. And the minister also gave us up to 21st September, to get the schools reopened. The main charge is to look at the various options that are available for us for school reopening, because of the situation that we find ourselves in now. We can't reopen school as the normal. We can only reopen school as the new normal. And in the new normal, there are things like ensuring the protocols, the COVID protocols. For example, social distancing is key. For example, wearing of masks is key, washing of hands and things like that. So how do you reopen school with all these things in place? If you are going to social distance, for example, can you use the spaces available to make sure that everybody goes to school at the same time? Obviously not. So what are the options that you have? How do you play it up to see that some go and then others will be there? And how is it going to affect the learning outcomes? Already they've had some loss of learning, no? But how do you do it so that at the end of the day, the little time that you have at your disposal, you should be able to do that. So for now, we are going to look at the hows, the whens, and the whats, and all that. What logistics do you need, and how? I mean, what amount? What financial support do you need, and all that. So we want to work out these things. The committee that the minister constituted is under the Honorable Phoebe. Professor Phoebe, he is a former Minister for Education, and then we also have the chairman of GS Council, Mr. Ansowa, is there. I am there, and my 2 deputies are there. We have the private schools fairly represented. Then we have a parent also on it. The committee will ensure that we also engage other stakeholders and then ensure that by the time we finish on 21st September, we have a comprehensive plan as to reopening of schools. There are two things that are key to us to resolve beyond ensuring the protocol. There is already a truncated academic year. Are we going to continue to finish that academic year, or we'll just leave it at that? Are we going to start a new academic year all over? If we are starting a new academic year, when are we starting? If we are going to continue with this one, when are we continuing? And you know, as we speak now, there are SHS 3 and JHS 3 in school. So, for example, the earliest probably we can get them going to school will be after they have finished their exams, which will finish finally somewhere in the middle of September, you know. So the committee is supposed to look at all these things, and then by 21st September, we should be able to present a report to the minister, so that the minister will also submit to the president for action to be taken.
Any idea yet where we will go, whether we continue or we start a new academic year with this? Because we're just in the third term when this pandemic broke.
Second term.
In the second term.
Yeah, we're just at the tail end of the second term for the KG to primary to JHS, and then for SHS, they had finished their first semester and we're going into their second semester. As of now, we cannot say that there's any idea. The only idea is that we are going to meet and talk about it. So whatever idea that we have, we can only play them up when we get into the committee, and then hopefully by the end of the committee's work, we should have a clear idea or some suggestions that we can fully implement. Yeah.
Let's also talk about the one hot meal per day for the students. What exactly is the plan for rollout?
Okay. Now, the president in his 15th address also indicated that reports that he's heard, you know, when we started this program, we also sent monitors around. We sent people to go and monitor and then do some evaluation of the program. And as we go along, we advise, and then some suggestions are taken, and then we review. So the president, upon receiving the various reports, one of the key things that came out was that because we said the students should be going to school 9 to 1 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and also because we said to ensure that we observe the protocols, they should eat before they come to school. There shouldn't be vendors around the school. What happened was that for some of them, they were not able to actually eat before they come to school. So they have to stay from 9 o'clock till 1 p.m. And if your home is a distance away, by the time maybe you get home, it is almost 2 o'clock and you have not eaten.
Fred Smith, who did that interview, joins us on the line now for more on this. So Fred, what's the rollout plan? Do we know now?
Well, it's not so clear yet, but the Director General in that interview says that they have so far interacted with the caterers who were already undertaking the school feeding program. And so those who had the basic schools that they were serving will now have to take over the junior high school level, and they now have to find caterers for the senior high school students as well. So if you were, for instance, a caterer in a basic school which is very close or in the same area as the secondary school that is going to benefit from this, then you automatically qualify to take up this role and serve the children. On Monday, this will roll out. They anticipate that there could be challenges in some areas because not all the areas have resources as they should. And so they've called for public support in implementing this in such a way that in case there is a challenge somewhere, the public will give their support in resolving those challenges for the success of it. This is going to run for just 1 month, and so the more support that they get, the better it will succeed.
So, Fred, do we know specifically the number of schools that GES is able to cater for now? Do they have a clear picture of that?
Yes. At the moment, they are targeting 20,000 schools, and they are spread across the country. We're talking about junior high schools and senior high schools. You know, Daniel, the final year students in our JHS and SHS are already in school and preparing for their examinations. Some have even started the exams. And so all of these persons, they are about 800,000. They will benefit from this.
Right. And so, Fred, I want to believe that the stakeholders have been consulted, all the stakeholders on that matter, so that the logistics of this provision will be sorted out totally.
Yes. So according to Professor Opoku-Amankwa, anyone who's supposed to be consulted has been consulted. Well, I asked him a question about the capacity of our poultry industry to support this plan, because you realize 800,000 eggs per day, and I'm anticipating that you'd have to even prepare more than 800,000 eggs in a day. That's significant. And so I've had interactions with some members of the Poultry Farmers Association to find out whether they will be able to meet this demand that will be coming. The indication is that the supply to the general public may have to, reduce a bit, and then all attention will be given to these schools that will be benefiting. They are also going to step up production, but it can't happen immediately because it takes time for you to, raise the eggs, the chicken to actually produce the egg, and so that will take quite a bit of time, but they believe that they will be able to meet this demand. Aside that, all the caterers who are going to be serving have already been contacted and are on the ground. The district directors of education, as well as the national directors, they're all going to be on the ground to monitor and see the progress of it. But of course, there are areas where you won't be able to monitor 100%. In that situation, parents and the general public are being urged to also put their eyes on the ground and also report some of these issues to the GES.
That's interesting, Fred. These caterers that are being used, are they school feeding caterers, or they are, other commercial caterers?
Yeah, they are school feeding caterers. They have gone through the health checks and have been passed by whichever metropolitan or municipal area that they are operating already. So they are going to be contracted to do this. In many cases, it will just be an extension of what they've already been doing. They were already catering for some basic schools, and some of those basic schools already have the JHS, and so they're just going to add on to it. Or in some areas where you have a caterer serving, say, a basic school, but now the opportunity has come for them to serve a senior high school that's very close by, then they take up that as well. And so there's no plan to bring on new caterers unless in special circumstances.
How about schools that have boarding facilities and so they take care of their own cooking? Are external caterers going to be used there, or they're going to use the facilities the school already has?
So there's a plan to engage them as well, so that where they cannot use the school feeding caterers, they will engage caterers who are already on cooking for the senior high schools.
Fred, thanks so much for giving us some in-depth insight, if I can use that expression, into this particular policy. Let's speak to some players in the poultry industry. Let's understand better what Fred was saying when he said that the supply to the general public may suffer. Joining us via telephone is Napoleon Ajimayodro, who is National Vice President of the Poultry Farmers Association of Ghana. Mr. Ajimayodro, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Are we to understand then that it may be difficult for us to get eggs to buy when we step out into the markets from next week?
Good afternoon, Daniel. Good afternoon to all poultry producers in the country. Then I thank the government for the opportunity given us. 800,000 kids to be fed each an egg a day is a good market for us for a whole month. That's a great thing, and we thank the government for that. To your question, I don't think it's going to be a challenge to poultry producers of the country. We're already producing far beyond the quantum, the 800,000 case, which is equivalent to about 27,000 trays. It should not be a difficult thing for us to supply.
Right. So how logistically prepared are you? I know that geographically you are not spread out across the country, so you may not be able to provide the eggs immediately for all the 20,000 schools across the country. So what are the arrangements you are making so that these eggs get to the students by Monday afternoon?
I hope we have our distribution channels. Almost every part of this country, everywhere poultry production is not so dense, we still have channels to distribute from other regions that are producing poultry in large quantities. So there's already existing distribution channels, and school feeding caterers know where they procure their own eggs. So when it used to be once a week, now it's going to be every day for almost a whole month. So school feeding caterers already know where they procure their eggs. However, the poultry producers, the association has reps from all the 68 regions of Ghana. And as at the time the president announced this, we have communicated, and there's always going to be a backup in case a particular region is falling short of the supply. We have made our contact available to some institutions that get in touch with the leadership of the poultry industry to make special arrangements to regions that will be affected. I guess all regional executives have assured us that we are so ready to make this happen. It's not going to be a challenge at all to us.
Mr. Ajimayodro, this is a commercial venture. Are you getting any financial support to do the needed investments to provide, or you are going to have to pre-finance this yourself and be paid later?
That is a major challenge to poultry production. You know, like once we sell, it is expected that not more than a week a farmer will have to get the money back to feed the birds. So we are in talks with school feeding authorities to see how we can take care of this challenge. We cannot allow our working capital to go and look for like a month. So obviously, we are so ready to help the initiative. However, if our money stays for over like a week or two, it will be a great challenge to us. And we are in talks with school feeding authorities to see what intervention we will have to come by to also reduce the burden, the financial burden that will be put on the farmer.
I'm going to ask this one more time, Mr. Ajimayodro, because of the benefits of some research. We know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs documents on the poultry sector it put out in the year 2019 shows that there are only about 29 large-scale commercial poultry farms currently in Ghana. Here's the geographical distribution, which I'm sure you know. 13 are in the Ashanti region, 12 are in the Bronga-Hafu region, and 4 are in the Greater Accra region. These, even though they form only about 20% of the poultry population, are those who are known to produce eggs in large quantities. So the question here is, knowing the data that we have now, how sure are we that every day in this month, students can get eggs delivered to them cooked?
Yeah, Dan, I thank you for that. There are over 3,000 small, medium, and large-scale egg producers in the country, and I think 800,000. I can assure you that it's just a day production from Ashanti region alone. When you talk of Bono region, Hafu, and other places, Greater Accra, Western Central region, we have enough farmers. In fact, if you remember during the time when COVID was so intense and we had lockdown and stuff, we threw away a lot of eggs. We had to sell some of the layers to make up or to reduce losses. We still have enough in the system to be able to take care of this initiative.
Right.
I would plead with the general public that no one should entertain any fear. We are so prepared. In case, let me stress this, we all will have to support the initiative by government to work because these children are going through some special protocols. And for that matter, we need to make everything possible to make the initiative. That's feeding them with lunch a day, make it work. Should it happen that a particular geographical location is running short of egg, we shall make our contact available. We will be able to arrange from one geographical location to another to make sure that we make eggs available to them. So we have only a few extremely large-scale producers. We have a bit of small to medium-scale operators, which when put together far outweigh even the quantum coming from the extreme commercial producers. So putting all eggs that we produce in the country together, far beyond what is expected to feed the general public and the school feeding initiative.
Napoleon Ajimayondro, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. He is Vice President of the Poultry Farmers Association of Ghana.